After having a dream about his death in his own world, Hiraku wakes up earlier than usual and steps outside to greet everyone. He reflects on how he never expected to live such a dreamlike life. As a soul, Hiraku meets with the god who watches over the world and learns that despite living for 39 years, his life was filled with cruelty, betrayal, and a terminal illness. The god, realizing the mistake, offers him a second chance with a healthy body and also grants him a wish. After contemplating for a moment, Hiraku expresses his desire to try farming, something he became interested in while watching a show during his illness. He also wishes to farm in a place with minimal human interaction, given his difficulties in getting along with others. The god admits that farming isn't under their jurisdiction but arranges for Hiraku to receive the power of the almighty farming tool, with permission from the agriculture god. Upon awakening in the forest, Hiraku feels a sense of gratitude for his renewed health and mobility. Eager to begin his farming life, he wonders how to wield the almighty farming tool that has been bestowed upon him. As he starts digging, he realizes that the tool has bestowed him with incredible strength, as he does not feel any fatigue. He marvels at the softness of the soil and realizes it would be perfect for growing vegetables. Hiraku then turns his attention to his immediate needs for food and water. He identifies a tall tree as a potential landmark and a good place to set up camp. Despite his efforts to locate a nearby river, he is unsuccessful. He then decides to excavate the ground to find an underground source of water. Using his tool, which transforms into a shovel, Hiraku begins digging and eventually unearths a precious water source. While working on the ground near the tree, Hiraku searches for food but unfortunately cannot find anything to sustain himself. Hiraku surveys the forest and notices a small tree that will soon hinder his farming plans. He decides to chop it down immediately and summons his almighty farming tool, transforming it into an axe. As he swings, the tree almost crushes him, but he manages to cut it down in one fell swoop. Using his hatchet, he chops the tree into smaller pieces. As night falls, Hiraku transforms his tool into a magnifying glass to start a fire, but the sun sets too quickly. He carves a hole into a large tree trunk and hides inside for shelter. There, he cuts plates and cups, and under the moon's light, he notices two moons and realizes he's in another world. In the morning, Hiraku continues to clear the area around the large tree and cuts more trees. Feeling hungry, a monster rabbit suddenly attacks him, but Hiraku swiftly kills it with a single swing of his tool. After satisfying his hunger, Hiraku realizes the need for a toilet and digs a large hole with an entrance, gas release hole, and a tree trunk seat. Unable to relax, he constructs a small cabin around the toilet seat. Hiraku then begins cultivating the land and dreams of what he could grow. As he finishes preparing the soil, he realizes that he doesn't have any seeds to plant. The next morning, Hiraku wakes up to a pleasant surprise. He notices that some plants have already started to grow in the area where he had cultivated the land. He ponders if it's due to the tool he had been using. To ensure the safety of his crops, he decides to build a wall and a ditch around the fields to prevent rabbits and other creatures from destroying them. It takes him a few days to complete the job, but he manages to kill another rabbit in the process. The plants continue to grow rapidly, and Hiraku hopes that they are edible and not just ornamental flowers. Next, Hiraku sets out to build himself a hut. As he struggles to lift the wood, he digs into the ground to create a space that is more vertical. While Hiraku is working on his hut, he sees two dogs outside. They don't seem aggressive, so he invites them in and feeds them some meat from a boar he had just killed. One of the dogs turns out to be pregnant and goes into labor. Hiraku is not sure what to do but decides to let them stay in his house while he goes back to his tree hole for the night. The following morning, he checks on the dogs and sees that the female dog has given birth to 4 puppies. To celebrate the occasion, he gives them some more meat. Hiraku initially thought that the dogs would leave after eating, but they decided to stick around. As they enjoy the hut, Hiraku decides to build himself a new house. The dogs help him by hunting and protecting the premises. Hiraku names them Kuro and Yuki and the puppies Kuroichi, Kuroni, Kurosen, and Kuroyan. Hiraku also grows some tomatoes and enjoys eating them. As he continues to cultivate the land, Hiraku decides that he needs a storehouse to store his crops. Elsewhere, a girl wants to cross the mountain, but a man tells her it's dangerous and if she heard of the forest of death. The other side of the mountain is known like that, and it's because it's full of monsters. The gods took notice of Hiraku and decided to check up on him, feeling remorseful for putting him in such a dangerous place like the forest of death. To their surprise, Hiraku had discovered that certain plants magically grow when he wishes to plant them, which made farming much easier for him. Grateful for the life that the gods had bestowed upon him, Hiraku made statues of them to show his appreciation. He decided to plant some fruits and played with his beloved dogs, realizing how important they were to him. The dogs not only provided him with companionship but also helped him navigate the forest. With their help, Hiraku managed to explore further and discovered a river. He planned to dig a tunnel to bring water to his camp, but realized it would take some time, so he decided to first build a toilet near the river. Hiraku realizes that turning his tool into a wheelbarrow would allow him to move around quickly without getting tired. With his newfound mode of transportation, Hiraku expands his crop fields, planting more vegetables, including soybeans. However, he can't enjoy the soybeans as he doesn't have any salt. As time passes, the weather starts to turn cold, and Hiraku notices snow on the nearby mountains. He decides to start preparing for winter by gathering food and wood to stay warm. One day, a giant spider appears. Surprisingly, the spider is friendly and even makes a handkerchief for Hiraku. The spider decides to live in the large tree and loves eating potatoes. In return for the food, the spider uses animal pelts Hiraku gives him to make clothes for him. With new clothes and a warm bed, Hiraku feels more civilized. He decides to name the spider Zabuton. The winter season arrives and Hiraku notices that Zabuton doesn't come down from the tree anymore, so he assumes that the spider is hibernating. Hiraku feels somewhat alone, but eventually, the summer returns. The dogs, which were once puppies, have now grown up and one day they leave the hut. However, they soon come back with their mates. Shortly after, Zabuton reappears and has some offspring as well. With more mouths to feed, Hiraku expands his crops again. One day, Kuro alerts Hiraku and leads him into the forest where he discovers a naked girl entangled in spiderwebs. The dogs and spiders are cautious around her, but as she requests help, Hiraku agrees to assist her. As he approaches her, she bites his neck and transforms into a young woman, leaving Hiraku to ponder if she is a monster. The dogs attack her and she reverts to her small form again. Hiraku is unsure if the girl is their adversary as she had drunk his blood, but she explains that she is not and had to do so to regain her strength. As she had used too much energy, she is unable to sustain her adult form and clothing. Hiraku wonders why the dogs attacked her and the girl clarifies that she wanted to take one of them. Feeling pity for her, Hiraku allows her to consume more of his blood to recover. Hiraku escorts Rurushi back to his place. The young girl is amazed to see a crop field flourishing in the forest and is equally amazed to see so many new crops. Hiraku offers her a tomato, and to his delight, she enjoys it and expresses her desire to taste some of the other crops. Ru reveals that she is a vampire and is thrilled to be able to sample so many new veggies. She shares with Hiraku that she is researching medicinal plants and had to flee after getting into a scuffle with some nobles who attempted to steal her research. With them relentlessly pursuing her, and after hearing of this forest, she decided to seek refuge in it until things settle down. Additionally, she had hoped to find some new plants to investigate. Ru is stunned to learn that Hiraku is living in this perilous forest and has even managed to tame the ferocious beasts. His ability to wield strange magic to create various tools also fascinates her. Hiraku realizes how fortunate he is to have met Ru, as she is the first person he has interacted with in a long time. Realizing that it may take a while to meet someone else, Hiraku asks Ru to stay and live with him. However, Ru is hesitant as she explains that there are people after her and that she is a vampire. Despite this, Hiraku insists and tells her that he doesn't want to live alone anymore. The next morning, Ru transforms into a younger version of herself, which Hiraku finds confusing. Ru explains that this form will prevent him from touching her, and Hiraku agrees to it. Hiraku tells Ru that he plans to grow sweet potatoes next, and Ru asks if he can also grow medical herbs. Hiraku agrees to try, but Ru explains that they need to find the right seeds. However, Hiraku tells her that he doesn't need seeds. He also tells her that she is the 30th villager, correcting his earlier statement. Kuro disagrees, but Hiraku clarifies that she is the first villager he has had in a long time. Using magic, Ru helps out by putting lights in the toilet and other places. Hiraku had almost given up on finding salt, but Ru explains that one of the layers in the soil is mostly salt and is surprised he didn't notice while did all that digging. Hiraku checks on his fruit garden, but guesses it takes more time for them to grow up than the veggies. Zabuton rings the alarm and Hiraku wonders what is going on. He goes with Ru to check out, only to find another girl being captured by the spiders and the dogs. She apologizes for attacking them and asks Hiraku for help, and as he releases her, she uses magic to heal herself. She then notices Ru and realizes she was hiding in the forest and wants to capture her, but the dogs attack her again. Hiraku takes the girl and Ru back to his place, and Ru explains she was in the same situation. The dogs are quite ruthless and magic doesn't really affect them, as they can also dodge spells. The girl wonders who is Hiraku and blushing, Ru explains it's her husband. The girl then introduces herself as Tia, an angel, to which Hiraku guesses that she serves God, but Ru explains that angels are a race of warriors, who have more muscle than brains. Hiraku wonders why Tia is chasing Ru and Tia explains Ru has a bounty due to the damage she caused in the town. Ru is always researching strange medicines and concoctions, and as soon as something bothers her, she starts blowing things up. Ru's states that only happened once and it was an accident, and she also explains that Tia is a bit stronger than her, which is why she ran into the forest. Tia is surprised that Ru is admitting her weaknesses, and Ru explains it's because she realizes how weak she is after facing the dogs. Ru offers Tia to live with them, guessing she will like it, to which Tia agrees and Ru takes her around to show her the crops. They spend the day harvesting some veggies and Hiraku gives Tia to try some, which she ends up liking. After a few days, Tia asks Hiraku if they can grow more strawberries. Hiraku explains they can, but even if they expand, they won't be able to keep up with the harvesting of everything. Tia realizes that they indeed can use more hands. Hiraku also notes that even if they do manage to harvest all, they may not be able to eat it all. Hiraku sees that Kuroichi, Kuroni, Kurosen and Kuroyan also have 3 to 4 children now and the dog family has grown quite a bit, and soon they will go find themselves partners. Ru realizes that means they will become even more, causing Hiraku to realize the hut he built them won't be big enough. Hiraku then decides to build a dog area next to the orchard, but realizes that he still haven't named the new pups as they are too many and he has a hard time thinking of names. Hiraku then sees Zabuton's children leaving, but sees some of them decided to stay. Tia tells Hiraku that she will be gone for a while and flies away. Few days later, Tia returns with a bunch of high elf girls. The elves introduces themselves as Leah, Leaf, Lekit, Lise, Lili, Lita and Lise. Hiraku notices they are all Lutes and Leah explains it's because they are all related. They came per Tia's suggestion and would like to live here, to which Tia states they have a sad backstory. They used to live in a village in the north, but most of their people got wiped out after they got dragged into the War of the Humans. Their race had scattered, and since then they have been wandering the land looking for a new home. Ru also suggests they to take the girls as she heard that the High Elves are talented race. She guesses they are still young, and Leah states she is the oldest, a bit over 400 years, while Lise is the youngest, a bit over 300 years old. Tia and Ru insist, and Hiraku agrees as long as they can get along with the rest of the roommates. Leah wonders who are the roommates, and Ru introduces Zabuton and the dogs, which causes the girls to faint. As the elves wanted to live together, Hiraku decided to build them one big house. The elves know more about construction, and Hiraku decides to follow their orders while they are building the house, and mostly just digs and brings them lumber. After 10 days the house is complete. It's quite big, and Ru and Tia are impressed. Hiraku feels jealous, but has learned the elves' techniques and considers rebuilding his hut. The elves' house has one big living room where they can all gather and dine. To each side of the living room, they have storage rooms. On the second floor, they have individual rooms. Hiraku is surprised to learn that the elves also eat meat and use fire. His image for elves is that they wake up with sunrise and go to sleep when the sun goes down. They are one with the nature and love the tree. They eat mostly berries and refuse to wear any metal. Leah tells Hiraku to not underestimate the forest, as if you try to live like that, you will die quite fast. Leah explains they plan on doing some mining and blacksmithing work, but first they need to build up a furnace that can melt iron. Hiraku is surprised, as in his image, that was a dwarf's work. Soon they build a furnace and start producing things. Having a metal pan, Hiraku gets excited, feeling his civilization is advancing, and guesses the elves can do anything. Leah states are some things they couldn't do, like settle down and reproduce. Hiraku states they already achieve one of those things, but decides to not say anything about the second, seeing how they were looking and smiling at him. The elves had seen there is a wheat field, and Hiraku explains they have harvested it and turned it into flour. Lise then asks if they can make some bread, showing that they have a jar with yeast, and Hiraku happily accepts. As they enjoy some bread, Hiraku guesses it's time to expand the wheat field. But in that moment he realizes something and asks Ru if this land belongs to anyone. Ru explains no one owns the forest, but it technically under the control of the demon lord. Hearing that, Hiraku starts to worry and wonders if the demon lord will have something against it, but Ru assures him that since he built this himself, the land belongs to him. Tia, Ru, and Leah are amazed by Hiraku, as not only he tamed the inferno wolves, but a demon spider too. The crops are also amazing, and Leah wonders if the soil here is actually that good for them to grow that well. But it's surprising how he lacks knowledge about the world around him. He had wrong impression on what elves were and had no idea what angels are, so the girls conclude it's more than just lacking some knowledge. Meanwhile, Hiraku is in his hut and makes a wooden cup. He realizes he haven't progressed his waterway in a while and wonders if the girls will help.